Hello, I've been asked today to talk a little bit about A-level geography here at Queen's, so thanks ever so much for listening. Right, so geography. Why geography? Well, we need geographers. That's why we need you to be taking geography. The decision makers of tomorrow will be the geographers of today. It's one of those subjects that is made up of lots of different subjects really, and I think it therefore fits very well as a humanities subject if you're interested in doing history and business, but it also sits very well as a science, and it teaches young people analytical skills. It teaches young people about listening and being able to understand different points of view before being able to make decisions. So it's a very varied A-level with lots of those generic skills that I think are really useful moving through Queen's, but also onto university and then life after that as well. So in terms of the exam board at Queen's, we go with OCR, and the exam has 3 papers. So it has a physical geography paper, it has a human geography paper, and then it has a synoptic paper that include elements of both the physical side of geography and the human side of geography. And then most importantly, and this is a new development over the last few years when the whole of the A-level was revamped, is a personal investigation study. And this forms 20% of the overall A-level, and it is a fantastic opportunity for pupils to choose a very small part of the specification that they find really interesting, and to take that further and look at some further research in that small area and become a real expert. And for me, it's been a real pleasure to be able to watch pupils get really into a particular part of the subject and then talk about that with real passion and actually be able to explain to me how things work in a level of depth that you wouldn't normally expect to find at A-level. So for me, that personal investigation is a real opportunity to take things further, and as well as bump up grades at the end of the day, because it's something you can do over time. There's lots of tutorial and lots of support time for that, and generally people are coming up with some fantastic grades in that part of the subject. So in terms of the 3 written papers, the exam board have totally revamped the A-level over the last few years and really brought it up to date so that it involves lots of issues that are pertinent to today, that are really important, which is why we need those geographers. It involves a lot of sustainability. It involves looking at lots of human rights issues, globalization, and the connectivity of the world, which is something that is clearly hitting home right at the moment, but has done for many years. So on the physical side, we've got coast, which is a very traditional look at coasts. We look at it as a system. We look at coasts, and we look at landforms on the coast and processes on the coast and the features of the coast, as well as from a human point of view how we affect the coastline, both intended and unintended from a coastal management point of view, or looking at the negative impact we can have on coastal erosion. Then we look at Earth's life support system, and that's a totally new element to the course. So that looks at the carbon cycle and the water cycle, and it's a sort of an umbrella topic. It's a holistic look at how we are affecting our planet. Incredibly diverse topic and really interesting to study. Probably my favourite part of the course. And it looks at global warming, it looks at climate change, but it also looks at how our farming systems, how our food supply, it looks at how coastlines, lots of other areas, wetland management, lots of these areas of both the physical and the human side of the topic come together, and how as humans, as a growing population, we have a big impact on the planet in terms of carbon, and the impact on climate change, but as well on water, and also the way that those two are interconnected with positive feedback loops, negative feedback loops, and that idea of balance and equilibrium and how we can somehow bring things back into balance. So for me, absolutely crucial and really interesting part of the course. The other physical topic would be hazards, where we're looking at earthquakes and volcanoes, and again how we interact with those natural events and how they then become hazards. So that's something you probably will have studied at GCSE, but it looks at it in much more depth. In terms of the human side of the subject, again, I think I've mentioned human rights. So human rights is a big part of the first year, and that's looking at gender issues, it's looking at issues of race and religion, and obviously absolutely current in the situation we find ourselves today. Trade is another topic, and the idea of globalisation and the fact that we are so well connected now, and trade is something that is absolutely global, and there are lots of different factors that affect trade. The third topic is new for the human geography side of the subject, and that's a topic called space-place. And really it's taken the old-fashioned ideas of urbanisation and studies of cities and towns, and it looks at people's place within settlements. So it looks at how places affect people, and it looks at how people affect places and how they interact together. And that's been really interesting to study that. And you study it at a very small scale. So we look at some very local settlements and look at identity, look at how a place is perceived. And then that moves up all the way through bigger towns and cities and places within the UK and global, and look at how the physical environment affects people's identity, affects people's idea on place and the space in which they live. The final topic then on the human side would be food supply. So rather than just looking at agriculture, we're looking at the ideas obviously of supply and demand. And again, our food industry is global. There are very clear connections and links there between food and the carbon cycle and the water cycle, and the food industry as well as farming, it is changing significantly to include ideas on sustainability, and how we can make sure that we maximise our food supply and make sure that demand is reached globally when we have a growing population. So that's the course in a nutshell, really. Like I said, for me, it's a subject that is really important. Geographers make good decisions, are able to analyse, are able to interpret, and so we need as many of them as possible. So if you've got any questions about geography here at Queen's, then please feel free, get in touch. I'm more than happy to go through things in a bit more detail with you. Thank you very much for listening.